Hello, it's Scott Mantley here, and today I am looking at Chaos Reborn. This was a Kickstarter earlier in the year, and it's now coming to Steam Early Access. So yeah, if you weren't a backer, you can join in now. So this is, of course, a modernised version of Chaos, which is one of the best 8-bit strategy games. It was the original arena battle where you had 8 wizards throwing spells, summoning creatures, blowing each other up using magic, and it was the best thing you could do for multiple players on the ZX Spectrum, which was, well, this game is going to be 30 years old next year, can you believe? Well, so this is a modernised version. It's a lot of the stuff isn't available right now. We have the Forge Master where you can, you can get equipment, you can adjust your ranks and things like that. There is going to be an offline mode where you can create your wizard, home your wizard, and then send him off into some realm where he will do that for you and get some experience. There's even higher levels where you can become a wizard king, a wizard lord, or a demigod. You know, take control of realms. These are all... Some people purchase these ranks early on, but it's also possible to achieve these ranks. There's a lot of customization promised. But right now, all we have is the basic core turn-by-turn battle, right? And this is, of course, a Julian Gollop game. Julian Gollop, he created Chaos, he also created Laser Squad, and most importantly, he created XCOM, or as many of you know it, the UFO Enemy Unknown series. So he's always done turn-based combat games, and this is something I've been waiting for a long time, so let's actually just try a quick multiplayer battle so we'll see if this will actually work. And it's going to be me versus someone called Aurora. Truth is, it's actually very hard for me to arrange a battle with someone, so I'm just going to show how it works. You can move, and then you can try perhaps summoning a dwarf. I'm going to summon a dwarf to do my bidding. See, there's a 90% chance of casting it for real, a 100% chance of casting it as an illusion. Illusions are identical to real ones unless you cast disbelief on them, which if you do that, it will vanish them or whatever. So yeah, I can switch over and have Aurora do her thing. Aurora is an account which I created for my daughter Sky. So she's running over there, and right now she's not playing because she's in bed, and it's actually very hard to narrate at the same time with her talking about her various things. So she has decided to bring forth a goblin. Now, if you noticed, this is the balance indicator. This went slightly lawful when I summoned this dwarf, and then it returns to neutrality when the goblin was summoned. That's because those are the alignments of those races. Now, if you get more and more aligned with a particular with law or chaos, it becomes easier to cast those spells, and you can of course exploit this to make some of the more powerful monsters easier to summon. Anyway, ending turn, it's now my turn here. Yeah, there's a few different things. I could try subverting her creature. I could also try casting a goblin, but I'm actually going to run. Maybe what I should do is actually, yeah, I'm gonna run up. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab this magic. Ooh, I picked up a mana sprite, which of course increases this bar here. This is my staff. It gets me boosts to my spellcasting ability, and when you hit enough mana, then you get a mega spell. Yeah, I think maybe I should try subverting this thing. That might be interesting. Let's try subverting her goblin. Oh, I failed to subvert it. Well, I'm going to run this way, and my dwarf will attack this, throwing this warhammer at it. Like a Mjolnir, right? And the turn... Oh, wait. Apparently, I still have things I can do. I can't move. I can't cast spells as much as I'd like another goblin here. End turn... still tells me there's something... What am I forgetting? What am I forgetting? Oh yes, this wizard is also a warrior, so wizards can whack things with sticks. Aha! Yes, the goblin has been vanquished by application of a giant wizard staff with its knob on the end. Yes, famous song, a wizard staff has a knob on the end. Now you see, this time I have been given the magic shield spell. Because he's of course a warrior, you can also get magical shields, magical swords to help you make you a more formidable foe on the battlefield. Furthermore, you can also sometimes get spells which will generate unicorns, horses, dragons, or elephants. And you can ride these beasties and run around the battlefield and slay your targets from the back. We have Aurora has spawned, or has summoned, an eagle to do her bidding. Eagles, of course, move very, very quickly around the battlefield. They're not hugely powerful in attack, but they are highly mobile and they can fly over certain kinds of obstacles. So they're obviously a very good thing to have. The dwarfs are much more defensive, they're very slow, but they have a ranged attack. Goblins move faster, but their attacks aren't necessarily as weak, and their armor is certainly a lot weaker. Chaos is drawing liberally from fantasy worlds, and it's interesting. It has really gone after its own graphics style, and that bird was no match for my big staff. Now the eagle-eyed may have noticed that when I killed that, I get a little bump in this little bar in the bottom right corner. This is my magic staff. Now the only one that I've got right now is the neutral staff, but once that's filled up I have access to an extra spell which is related to that. There are other properties of the staff, and once the full game is developed, there will be different kinds of staff and items that you can carry around. What is Aurora has picked up? Another mana sprite. Oh, she's gone after the mana sprite. That will help with a number of things. Unfortunately, it doesn't help her sufficiently, and her attempts to summon an elf to her cause have failed. It is my turn once again. Well, I myself am of course going for this mana sprite over here. It'll help fill this up. Dwarf runs that way, and since I'm heading in this direction I can still cast a spell, so I could go for... I think I'm going to go for the goblin. Now the reason I want to go for the goblin first is that will make things more chaotic, which should... You see the skeleton casting percentage has now popped up to 73%. So that's a good thing, right? It means that my other chaos spells are going to get more and more easy to cast. Of course, it's entirely possible that Aurora will turn things the other way, right? Will decide that lawful magic is the way to go. And I get another magic bolt spell. Magic bolts are simply direct attack spells. They have a limited range. I can throw a bolt at my target. And she has gone and balanced things out again by summoning another dwarf to her cause. So it'll be dwarf versus dwarf and a goblin that'll eventually get here. I can take a step in that direction, and from here I can throw the hammer at it, but only a 14% chance of victory. There are no hit points. It's basically a chance to kill versus you get a one-hit kill basically, but the chances are obviously much lower for if you're attacking a powerful monster with a weak one. Now, undead creatures, they are only attackable via magical attacks. So those dwarfs, those goblins, they cannot do anything to hurt this undead creature. It requires the magic staff or some other kind of magic for them to be affected. And I get another eagle. All my spells are now neutral. There's no lawful, there's no chaotic. It's just neutral. Meanwhile, on the combat front, Dwarf is slugging it out with another dwarf, while Aurora looks into her bag of tricks, thinking of something that could perhaps give her the edge in this epic battle of wizards. I like the graphic style here, they have the hexagonal planes. The original game was in... Ooh, wow, that is a manticore. Manticore being, of course, a combination of a dragon, a lion, and a scorpion, which is all kinds of freaky and scary if you ask me. Yeah, the original game used square tiles to move around. Moving it onto hexes makes it, gives a little more options for movement. Squares are fine when you're doing something like XCOM or Xenonauts, where it actually takes more time units to move diagonally. But where you only have the same number of steps you can go in any direction, hexagons are the closest you'll get to equal footing in every direction, let's say. Okay, so I shall try and... You know what? Yeah, I'm going to create a giant, but I'm going to do an illusion. Illusions are just as powerful as the real thing, unless they are disbelieved. Everybody always has the disbelieve spell, but they have to take a guess at which ones might be a potential illusion. And disbelieve always succeeds in wiping out any illusions, but is of course completely ineffective against an actual creature. This is part of the balance of the game. You can decide to guarantee the spawning of an illusionary monster, or you can take the risk of failure and get a real bona fide creation which cannot be eliminated by that spell. But that manticore has done a number and zapped my goblin off the map. Notice I now have a fully loaded staff ready to unleash its magical power when I want to. Now there are other spells that don't create monsters. Some of them create objects in the battlefield. There's ones which create forests of trees which have spaces between them, but if the enemy walks next to the trees they can be attacked. There are ones which create tangleweed, essentially, walls of weeds that you can't walk over. There's the gooey blob, there's the magic fire. I'm not sure if there's the castle. The magic castle was a feature in the original game where you could spawn, you could basically conjure a castle up and use that as your base. It would give you defensive bonuses and things like that. Okay, but my dwarf decides to give this thing a whack, and of course does not succeed, but it's only a matter of time until my skeleton gets there, and nothing can be done about it. I'm gonna bring along a spider as well, because that looks pretty freaky, and I have a bunch of spiders. Darn. Failed to cast the spider, and I get a spider in its place. You can see the spell deck in the bottom left, or bottom right. It tells me I have 3 cards remaining. Wait, spell deck remaining 3, law 0, chaos 5. I'm not sure what that's telling me. I guess that's the relative strengths of the alignment associated with these. Now that's Aurora dropping a magical decree on me, another ranged attack which could potentially kill me, bringing the battle to an early end. But my dwarf was wiped out by that manticore. That's a pretty scary creature, I have to say. And now the dwarf has sat itself in between the manticore and that skeleton. The skeleton cannot be killed by the manticore because the manticore is not a magical creature. I mean, it seems pretty magical to us, but it doesn't have any intrinsic magical capabilities. It does have flight, and it can therefore move around the map very, very quickly. So the skeleton can't be killed by the dwarf, but the dwarf has a lot of defensive capabilities. So it's very good for holding the skeleton at bay and making sure that Aurora doesn't come under direct attack from that skeleton, which could be very, very bad for her. Of course, making things bad for Aurora is my entire strategy. So let's move the giant down. The giant can only move 1 step because it's going to get engaged by this manticore. So 75% chance to win, and it just evaporates. That means that manticore was completely illusionary. Well, that's good to know. Anyway, now my skeleton is engaged to the enemy, which means it can't move. It has to remain in combat with that dwarf. And so therefore the only thing I can do is fight it. See, this is a good way of holding your enemy in place, is by understanding that the engagement will slow down the hostiles. So there's actually a lot of different strategies that can get on here. Anyway, I notice that my staff is filled. My staff runneth over. It's time to activate it, and that gives me a special Mega Bolt spell. click on the info. Range of 4, power of 10. It basically hits up to 3 targets within my line of sight, and I have a 100% chance of casting it. That's good. I have a bunch of magic bolts. I should move to within combat range and start delivering them. Now it's the turn of Aurora. This is actually a very, very simple match. You can do 2 versus 2 or 1 versus 1. You can have 3-player battles, 4-player battles. You can do 2 versus 2 as well. So there's a lot of different options, and it can get very chaotic, pardon the pun. Although it's not nearly as chaotic as the original Chaos, where you could have 8 people playing. And the funny thing was, you never had networks in those days. Now you just go on and online and you find someone. In those days, you had one computer and the people would be told to like turn their back or whatever while people were making their moves, so they couldn't see which spells they had available or anything. And yeah, there was always accusations of people cheating and sneaking a look. But it was such a good game. We played that game forever, and it still stands up today. I think, you know, it's still something you could play and enjoy. Although Chaos Reborn is clearly the way to go, and as I said, will be available on Steam Early Access by the time you see this. And the full game will be coming soon. Haha, there, that dwarf getting taken down by my completely illusionary giant. Yes. Yeah, I'm still not in range to perform the Mega Bolt attack. That sucks. Guess I'll try... yes, let's try spawning another spider, because that's been totally working incredibly well for me. And once again, this board is clearly scared of spiders. It does not want to do anything. Okay, and I get another... I just have piles of neutral spells here. There must be at least one chaotic card in there. There's 2 cards, and at least one of them has to be chaotic. Aurora moves in. What is her plan? She is now within strike bolt range. Oh! No! She just zapped me with a spell, and the battle is over. My monsters dissolve, and I lose. But we all get experience for our troubles, although Aurora gets a little more. So yes, the game is Chaos Reborn. It is, of course, by Julian Gollop, who is one of my hero game devs. He created the XCOM series many, many years ago, and I also loved the Chaos series, so I'm quite happy to see a new version, and I will be in the world challenging wizards for a long time to come. Until then, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.